So my name is Matt Griscom, and I invented MetaAutomation. It's a pattern language of 6 patterns that are language independent and platform independent to answer the question, does the software do what we need it to do? MetaAutomation shows how to do this faster and more effectively with better focus and value and transparency, and not just for the QA role, but across the larger software development team, all the way up to the executives. So I want to tell you a story about where we are for software quality. I noticed a blog post back in May, and it used phrases like world-class engineers and advancing the state of the art. And it was clear from his description, the guy was just throwing information on the floor. He's throwing actionable and analyzable time management, risk management information on the floor. So if you just heard Frank's talk, data is your friend, but not to this guy. Or at least he doesn't know it yet. And he's also putting his team, him and his team, at disadvantage because he's limiting the scope of how productive and impactful they can be. So that's the state of the art. With MetaAutomation, I wanted to look at something broader. What can we do better to improve the state of software quality? Because I realized that that blogger guy and all of us really, and me too, I've been there, is impacted by 2 historical accidents. So the first is about the word automation, which came into use in the 50s around industrial automation. Industrial automation is building stuff faster, better, cheaper. And then software test came along and invented the practice of test automation, but it created an oxymoron because when you automate a software product, you're not doing like industrial automation or even DevOps, where you do care about the end product. With the software, you don't care about the end product. Most people have substituted the pass-fail result of a check, and they'll call that good, but they're still dropping data on the floor. The second historical accident happened in 1979 with that book by Glenford Myers on software testing. And in the book he wrote, and he said this repeatedly and emphatically, the whole point of test is to find bugs. And a lot of people believe it. And Jim Kainer believes it, which means that James Bach pretty much has to believe it. But if you're only looking for bugs, you cannot adequately answer the question, does the software do what you need it to do? So MetaAutomation goes beyond the oxymoronic test automation into something I call quality automation, which is just the matter of automating the measurements of quality and the communication of that quality. So now you're not just talking about the QA team anymore, and the QA team doesn't have to maintain a layer of obscurity that nobody really knows what's going on. Now it's transparent all across the team. So I have a question. Are there individual QA roles, people here that do automation? Does anybody do automation? Yeah. So, yeah, okay. So, yeah, it's not so bad to admit it, right? How would you like to have a greater impact, immediate and meaningful to the entire team? Not just the QA team, but the entire team. Because MetaAutomation shows you how to do that. The samples on MetaAutomation.net, and there are 2 samples up there, they will show you not just an implementation of the atomic check pattern, but also the whole infrastructure. It's basically a simple test harness that will show you how you can do an atomic check and how it's done, but also do it across process and across machines. The second sample does that. The first sample is easier to set up. But it shows basically, you don't have to drop that information on the floor. You can save it and communicate it and work with it. And you can actually, I know that Frank was talking about analytics when he talked about data. And analytics are cool and very important, but this is why I was harping on asking him the hard question, do you test it before you ship it? Well, this allows you to know in better detail and faster whether or not it actually works. So this is the 2nd edition of my book here, and I'm working on a 3rd edition. No secret, might as well put it out there. So my target is February. In the 3rd edition, additional material. One thing I'll do is there will be a 7th pattern That is an embedded pattern in atomic check here in the back of the cover. It's already implemented. I just haven't formalized the pattern. So that's one thing that's going into the third edition. But I also need, this is where you all come in, I also need for feedback and experience applying the patterns. Because I'm a hardcore geek and I love this stuff, and I know that we can do much better with software quality, and I have a pretty good idea of how to do it. We just have to make the leap, and with my samples you'll see what leap to make, and that's really cool. But I need a hardcore geek to engage with and work with a company, sign an NDA, make it happen for the company, for software that matters. So please talk with me after the talk, or in case we don't get to it during the questions. I also have business cards, and if you have more questions, go to MetaAutomation.net, and that's a good way to reach me, Matt at MetaAutomation.net.
So you want to do a couple questions, or you want to save them for after?
Can you comment on what your 6 patterns are?
Oh yeah, well, it's what are the 6 patterns? So this is on MetaAutomation.net also. In fact, this is the back cover of my book. On MetaAutomation.net, there's a much better diagram because it shows the context for the patterns, the 6 patterns and the context. And so it actually makes a lot more sense. But the 6 patterns are about measuring and communicating quality. And actually, I think I'm going to dodge that question a bit because I'm going to send you right to the website. I could try to explain, they're grouped there on the website for MetaAutomation and details. It shows you the context, it groups the patterns for, these are the ones for measuring the product, these are the ones for measuring the product faster, these are the ones for directing communications of the product, these are the patterns for not interrupting people's day when they don't really need it, and all that kind of stuff. You know, and they're grouped, actually not, but they're grouped in there. These are patterns for presenting the data. So these are the 6 patterns, and then the 7th, well, I've been happy to talk about that, but I'm working with the patterns group on that 7th pattern.
Excellent.